From homeless to millionaire. The journey of a black man, inspired by Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Edward's mansion loomed like a fortress on the edge of the city, cold, wide, and full of secrets. Lightning slammed across the sky, while rain pounded the black slate roof, drumming out a furious beat that matched the ache inside him. He was a millionaire, yes, wealth beyond any measure. But alone? Absolutely. Since his wife died, the silence in this house had become a weight he couldn't shake. Every room held a whisper of her laughter, now replaced by an emptiness so thick it pressed against his ribs. That's when he saw Marcus, a black man crouching on the front steps, soaked by the storm, clutching a paper bag like it was his last thread to the world. Homeless, dirty, shivering in a coat that had long ago given up trying to keep him warm. Edward's first instinct was to look away, to close the curtains and pretend he didn't notice. But something locked him in place, a strange pull that wouldn't let him go. Why him? Why now? Edward muttered under his breath, heart jumping as the shadows inside the house flickered on the walls like restless ghosts. The lights blinked fast, plunging the hallways into brief dark pockets, where whispers seemed to crawl just behind his ears. He shook his head, but the sensation didn't fade. He watched Marcus raise his head, dark eyes catching the storm's fury. The wind howled like a beast, dragging rain sideways through the iron gates. Edward felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold night air or the regret he carried inside. There was something more, something tangled between their lives. Suddenly, a flash of memory stabbed at him. A boy in a dusty alley, rain-soaked and scared. Another boy, darker, face sharp with pain and fire. Names, places, faces blurred with childhood shadows and secrets Edward thought were buried deep enough to never surface again. His fingers curled tight around the armrest, nails biting into his skin. He wanted to turn away, but couldn't. Marcus was a mirror reflecting a past Edward tried to cage, a past filled with things he didn't have the courage to face. But Marcus wasn't just a ghost from the past. His bitterness burned in his eyes, a slow simmer of old anger and mistrust. The storm broke toward midnight, thunder cracking the sky wide open. Edward stepped outside, feet splashing through puddles, breath catching in his throat as their eyes locked. No words, just a fierce, silent challenge lurking between them, like a spark ready to ignite a firestorm. "Who are you, really?" Edward whispered, voice trembling. Inside, he wrestled with guilt sharper than any blade. His wealth, his success, all suddenly felt like chains. Outside, the storm raged on, matching the turmoil twisting his gut. And then, the old family secret poked through, sharp and unforgiving. A truth neither man was ready for, cracking open their fragile worlds and throwing them into a new, uncertain fight. Can Edward face what's coming? Or will the shadows swallowing them both drag him down faster than he ever imagined? The thunder rumbles, the rain keeps falling, and the night isn't over. Not by a long shot. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. Do. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Edward stood there, heart racing, the storm raging on around him. The air was electric, charged with tension. He had stepped outside, dared to face someone who was the reflection of his darkest fears. He felt both fragile and fierce, like a spark in a rainstorm. Seconds felt like hours as they locked eyes, the world around them melting away. It was Marcus who broke the silence, his voice raw like gravel. "You got everything, man. What's it to you if I'm out here?" His words dripped with venom and pain, cutting deeper than Edward expected. Each syllable echoed their shared past, the truths buried beneath years of denial. Edward opened his mouth, thoughts swirling, but he couldn't find the words. His thoughts twisted, playing games in a brain filled with memories he'd rather forget. The storm howled, thunder crashing as if God himself was rewriting the story in real time. Then came the crash. A bolt of lightning struck nearby, illuminando not just the scene but something more, something he saw reflected in Marcus's eyes. Fragments of a life Edward thought he'd left behind came rushing in. Fear hit him hard, wrapped around his throat like a noose, and then, just as quickly, his world shattered. The front gate creaked open, squealing against the storm's fury. A figure emerged from the shadows, wrapped in a long coat that flew violently in the wind. Edward's heart stopped. The figure's face came into view, his mother. Gone for years, she stood there, drenched but defiant, a storm-worn warrior. "Edward!" she bellowed, voice sharp against the rain. The moment shocked him into stillness. Memories flooded back. Lost weekends, bitter arguments, and a painful farewell. "I didn't want to come back, but you forced my hand." Shock twisted in Edward's gut. His mother? Here? Why would she return now? The fight he had buried deep inside him exploded at the sight of her. "You're supposed to be dead," he shouted over the din of thunder. She laughed, harsh and bitter, and it cut through him like a knife. "Oh, honey, this is so much bigger than you think." "You never knew the truth, did you?" As rain lashed down, Edward saw Marcus step forward, a fire igniting in his eyes. "What truth?" he shot back, fists clenched at his sides. "What the hell is going on?" In that moment, everything turned. The air chilled as the storm held its breath. Edward glanced at Marcus, confusion sown with curiosity, and back at his mother. The walls of his carefully crafted life crumbled as she said the words that would change everything. "Your brothers." No one moved. Edward's world spun, each heartbeat painfully loud in the crushing silence. He saw Marcus freeze, eyes wide, as fury gave way to disbelief. Time hung heavy, stretching into a void, filled with trembling echoes of everything he thought he knew. Brothers? The rain pounded, drowning out thoughts, drowning out pain. Drenched in revelation, old secrets roared to life, pressing in from all sides, each breath becoming a battle. Could it be true? In that frozen moment, the past twisted like a knife in their hearts, tightening its grip. As the thunder rumbled in the distance, 3 hearts drummed out a rapid beat beneath the chaos. Would they face this twisted family truth together, or would it tear them apart? Edward was caught between two worlds. His mother's return, Marcus's fierce gaze. Both shadows breathing life into the storm inside him. And the night? It had only just begun. Edward's heart raced as he stared into Marcus's fierce gaze. The storm roared around them, but in that moment, it felt like the world had shrunk to just the two of them. "Who are you, really?" he whispered again, the weight of that question heavy on the air. Marcus just stared back, the rain running down his face like tears. It was a moment filled with unspoken truth, a question lingering in the thunder's echo. They, just as Edward opened his mouth to say more, a sharp crack shook the night. A blinding flash of light struck the nearby oak tree. The explosion sent a spray of splintered wood and leaves flying toward them. Both men instinctively ducked, but in the chaos, a sudden shout broke through the storm. "Edward, watch out!" It was the voice of his late wife, Sarah. But how could that be? Her laughter had turned to memory, a sweet echo now lost to the bitterness of silence. Edward dropped to his knees, fists clenched against the cold puddles. The sound echoed endlessly, drenching him in a mix of confusion and sorrow. "Did you hear that?" he gasped, looking back at Marcus. But the other man's expression had shifted. Shock rippled across his features, replaced by something darker. "You knew her," Marcus said slowly, eyes wide. "Didn't you? Who are you hiding from?" A shudder of recognition crawled down Edward's spine. A question bubbled up in him, a reckless, dangerous line of thought. How did Marcus know Sarah's name? He hardly knew this man, yet it felt like the rain drenched the secrets he had tried to bury. Then, before he could process it all, the temperature dropped. The chilling wind rushed past them, and suddenly Marcus grabbed Edward by the shoulders. "What are you not telling me?" His grip was tight, urgent. "Let go of me!" Edward yelled, but the fear in his voice betrayed him. The connection between them pulsed like a live wire. In that moment, another flash lit the sky, revealing something. A tattoo creeping down Marcus's forearm. Something Edward knew all too well. It was a familiar mark, etched into his memory. "No," Edward breathed, stepping back, the world spinning. "You can't be." "That's right," Marcus smirked, voice now laced with both triumph and hurt. "I'm more than a homeless man on your steps. I am the sun you never acknowledged." The sky seemed to crack open around them, refusing to let the night go quiet. Edward staggered back, as if struck physically, eyes wide with disbelief. Memories collided. A reckless night, promises unkept, and the realization that everything he built stood on shifting sand, shadowed by the sun he'd abandoned. The winds howled, a deep, mournful sound. Edward's heart thundered in his chest. "But I thought you were gone." "Gone?" Marcus scoffed, the challenge laced in his tone. "You never looked back. You never wanted to know." As the storm raged on, so did the storm inside Edward's chest. Every word Marcus hurled felt like a strike, fueling the flames of a past that had never really been buried. Thunder rumbled again, but this time it didn't feel like a warning. It felt like a beginning. "Now what happens?" Marcus asked, eyes locked onto Edward, daring him to make a move. The night darkened, and for the first time in years, all of Edward's riches felt like an illusion. The silence stretched between them as secrets twisted in the air, both men wrestling with their truths. Neither knew where this revelation led, but the burning questions filled the air, begging to be answered. "Now, what happens?" Marcus asked, eyes locked onto Edward, daring him to make a move. The rain pounded harder, each drop slapping against the ground like a fist. Edward could feel the storm brewing inside him, heart racing, fists clenched. He took a shaky breath, words caught in his throat. Everything felt like a heavy weight, the past and the present colliding in a painful storm. "All this time, we had no idea," Edward murmured, staring into Marcus's eyes. "But why now? Why just tell us this?" A sudden roar interrupted him, a crack of thunder so loud it felt like the sky was splitting open. The ground vibrated beneath their feet, and for a heartbeat, both men froze. Just then, in the blinding flash of light, something strange shifted in the air. From the shadows of the house, a figure emerged, a woman dressed in pure white. Edward squinted against the storm, disbelief washing over him. The figure stepped closer, rain drenching her hair. But it wasn't just any woman, it was Sarah! Edward's heart stuttered, confusion wrapping around him like chains. "Sarah!" he shouted, disbelief flaring in his chest. "How? But you—" "Surprise!" she said with a smirk that cut through the chaos, but there was no hint of joy in her eyes. "I had to come back. You both need to understand the truth." Marcus's face twisted in mix of suspicion and anger. "Is this some sort of joke? You can't just waltz back here and drop bombshells." The clouds churned above them, and the wind howled as if responding to Marcus's fury. "You've been dead. How can you just be here?" Edward was breathless, searching for answers. Heart pounding, he took a step closer, desperate for clarity. "I was never dead, Edward," Sarah said, and even with the rain whipping around her, there was a calm in her voice. "I faked my death to protect you, both of you." "What?" Edward stumbled back, the words slamming into him. "Why?" "Protect us from what?" "From the truth that binds us all together," she said, locking eyes on Marcus. "And the danger that came from hiding it." The wind howled louder, drowning out Edward's thoughts. The truth? What truth? He felt his brain burning from the weight of her revelations, making every memory feel like a mirage. "What danger are you talking about?" Sarah shook her head, her face tight. "You need to listen. There's more to our family than you were ever told. Secrets that could destroy lives." "I don't care about your secrets!" Marcus snapped. "What do you mean, danger? What the hell are you hiding?" His fists were clenched, scars of anger visible in his stance. "Danger that still hunts us," Sarah said, her voice low and urgent. "They won't stop until they find you both, not after what happened years ago." But before she could explain more, the ground shook and a sharp scream sliced through the storm. A flash of lightning illuminated the dark sky, and something thundered through the air, louder than the storm, more chaotic than the rain. Through the trees, dark shapes emerged, figures moving fast, shadows streaking toward them like predators on a hunt. "Run!" Sarah shouted, panic washing over her. "They're here!" Edward's heart raced, and he felt the grip of fear. This was no longer about the past, no longer about revelations. It was about survival. His mind whirled, but one thought stood out in the storm. Who's coming for us? But there was no time for answers. Edward felt pressure rising in his chest, urgent need clawing at him. He turned to Marcus, both their eyes painting a picture of desperation, confusion. Then the enemy was upon them, and everything he thought he knew shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. The night exploded with chaos, rain, thunder, and the sound of footsteps rushing closer. Edward, Marcus, and Sarah were caught in the eye of the storm, a storm with no end in sight. Who were these figures? What were they after? And more importantly, could they survive the truth storming closer? Edward's breath caught, frozen in the stormy air. The moment their eyes locked was heavy. Something real crackled like electricity between them. He could feel the chains of his past tightening around him. But that grip shifted when he noticed something else behind Marcus's haunted glare. Something familiar. "Who are you, really?" he whispered again, louder this time. Dread curling in his stomach. The wind shifted, a sudden gust slashing between them. Edward saw something flicker in Marcus's expression. A flash of recognition, anger, and pain. Before he could comprehend it, Marcus staggered back, bumping into a flower pot, sending soil spilling like secrets across the steps. "Get away from me!" Marcus shouted, his voice both raw and desperate. Then he collapsed to his knees, shoulders shaking, and in that moment of vulnerability, Edward saw a truth reveal, painfully clear as raindrops fell. "Marcus," Edward ventured, but the name tasted wrong on his tongue. Suddenly, horror struck him like lightning. Memories came flooding back, dark and poignant. "A brother? No. Why'd you leave me?" Marcus's voice broke, filled with a grief that sent a bolt of ice through Edward's heart. "Why didn't you come back?" Edward staggered, feet splashing through the flooded ground. The embers of recognition ignited into flames. A childhood scattered among glimpses of laughter and betrayal. A boy lost in an angry neighborhood. The last time he'd seen Marcus, he was a terrified child. A small hand waving goodbye while Edward vanished into a life he never asked for. Thunder rumbled. The sky reflected the war within Edward. I thought... "You thought you could forget?" Marcus rasped. "You left me. You chose your money over your blood. And look at me now." Fury and shame blurred through Edward's vision. Below it all, a thudding reminder of the life he had taken and the brother he abandoned rose like bile. Every decision, every inch gained had come at a price, and now that cost stood before him, soaked and shaking, with eyes filled with unyielding pain. "Marcus, I had to survive," Edward pleaded, voice trembling. The storm howled in agreement, wind creeping around him like a predator. Suddenly, the ground shook. A loud crack echoed, and a flash of light blinded Edward for a moment. He felt the earth tremble beneath his feet, and before he knew it, a tree nearby split, crashing down mere feet from them, scattering debris. "How can you survive now?" Marcus yelled. his voice almost drowned out by the chaos. "You're living in a golden cage. You're not free. None of us are." As rain poured down, drenching them both, something flickered in Marcus's pocket. A glint, a pendant, polished and gleaming. Edward's breath hitched. It was familiar. One he thought was lost. The same one their mother wore, now tinged with despair. "Where did you get that?" Edward breathed, reaching out, desperation clawing at him. "I found it. I found it with your name!" Marcus shouted back, waving the pendant like a challenging flag. "Our mother passed that to you. Did you even care?" A rush of memories assaulted Edward. Fragments of family, betrayal, his mother's fading voice, and a life filled with lies. The truth was heavy, pounding against his ribs in time with the rain. Guilt, love, and regret wrapped tighter around them, fueled by the storm raging overhead. And Marcus was a brother he thought he had lost forever. The past crushed into their present, and it felt like the world was collapsing. But as Edward's hand reached for the pendant, the lights around the mansion flickered violently. The air hummed with tension, and the shadows deepened. A flicker of darkness, a shape emerged behind Marcus. Edward froze. What was that? Before he could voice a warning, a loud crash echoed through the night. The wind howled as if in answer to the storm, and that figure moved forward, dark and ominous, shrouded in the night. The night was far from over. It was just beginning. The silence between them crackled like the storm, thick and heavy. Edward felt a desperate need to break it, to plunge into whatever haunted Marcus's gaze. The rain poured harder, a drumbeat of urgency that echoed the tension between them. "Who are you, really?" he repeated, voice barely a whisper, but the words hung in the air like a thick fog. Marcus didn't flinch. Instead, his lips tugged into a small, bitter smile. "I could ask you the same thing," he shot back, voice deep and rough. The challenge lingered, both men standing firm against the rain, a wall of pride between them. Suddenly, a loud crash snapped their focus. From behind the mansion, a flash illuminated the sky, a fire igniting behind his house. Panic surged through Edward like a hot wave. "What the—" He turned, eyes wide, and then his feet were in motion. Racing toward the back of the mansion, Marcus followed, curiosity mixing with alarm. The ground was slick, making it tough to maintain balance, but adrenaline fueled Edward's strides. Shadows danced under the flickering light of the flames, twisting and contorting like demons emerging from the depths. When they reached the edge of the property, the sight made Edward's stomach drop. An old shed, long forgotten, now engulfed in flames, crackling and roaring like a beast unleashed. And yet there was something more. Among the flames, flashes of color and movement caught his eye. "No!" he screamed, heart racing. He darted forward, fear tightening his chest, desperation clawing at him. The shed had stored belongings he thought were safe, kept away, hidden from the world. He had visited it many times, but now nothing was sacred, nothing was saved. "Wait!" Marcus shouted, pulling Edward back. "You can't go in there! Stop!" Edward shouted back, his eyes locked on the inferno. The flames roared higher, embers spiraling into the night sky, and the heat washed over him like a wave of anger and regret. But when he turned to Marcus, he saw something change. It was a flicker in his eyes, a moment where the horror broke through. You don't understand, Marcus said, a tremor in his voice. That shed, it holds more than just your junk. It's a grave for secrets. What do you mean? Edward took a step back, confusion swirling inside him. He looked deeper into Marcus's eyes, searching for answers that felt just out of reach. Suddenly, Marcus hesitated. The storm howled louder, as if aware of the chaos unfolding. I know what's in there. I know what you're hiding. His words landed like stones, and Edward froze. Before Edward could respond, the ground trembled. An explosion rocked the earth, sending flames and debris flying into the stormy night. Edward felt the force of it push him back, knocking him to the dirt. "Get down!" Marcus yelled as he shielded Edward with his body, the heat scorching their skin. Another explosion trembled through the earth, and all at once, everything felt like it was crashing down as the flames danced, illuminating faces distorted by fear. Edward caught sight of the shed's door splintering apart. His heart raced with dread, desperation clawing at his throat. A familiar figure emerged from the chaos, silhouetted against the flames. "Wait!" Edward gasped, recognition flooding through him as memories flashed. The boy from the alley, the one he knew deep down, the one he never forgot. "Marcus!" He screamed, but the name felt distant. Everything swirled. Time stalled. "Edward, get out of here!" Marcus shouted, urgency thick in his voice. But Edward stood frozen, the past clawing its way back, a shadow rising up to claim them both. The storm raged on, fierce and unyielding. The night wasn't over, and the truth was about to blow apart everything they thought they knew. Edward stood there, breathless, as the storm raged on. The rain dripped from his hair, collected on the tips of his collar, and slipped down his jacket like cold fingers clawing for warmth. He felt that fierce challenge in Marcus's gaze, but something else crackled in the air, something heavier. "Who are you?" Edward asked again, voice shaking. "What do you want?" As if in response, the wind howled louder, a dark, wild creature screeching into the night. But just then, a new sound cut through the chaos, a shout from the street, tearing their focus away like a lightning bolt across the sky. "Hey, move it!" Both men turned to see a figure stumbling out of the shadows. A woman, disheveled, wild-eyed, nearly tripping over the puddles. Edward squinted through the torrential downpour, heart racing as he recognized her. It was Patrice, a face from his past, a memory better buried. Patrice! The girl he'd loved and lost, the one who got away. The one who had dragged him into the dark spiral of what he thought he'd escaped. "Edward! Marcus!" she cried, breathless. "You need to listen! It's dangerous out here!" She glanced over her shoulder, fear etched across her wet, mud-streaked face. "They're coming for you, both of you." "Who's coming?" Edward demanded, confusion swirling in his mind. With narrowed eyes, Marcus took a step forward. "What are you talking about?" Her gaze darted again, and for a moment, panic overtook her voice. "I can't explain right now. Just trust me. They know about you, about the money. They'll take everything. They always do." Edward's mind raced. "Patrice, what do you mean? Who's they?" "I can't say here," she insisted, frantic. "We need to get inside. No one's safe outside. Not you, not me, definitely not him. Her finger pointed to Marcus, panic twisting her expression into something unrecognizable. What's that supposed to mean? Marcus growled, his stance tightening defensively. A flash illuminated the night sky, making everything painfully clear for a split second. And in that brief moment, Edward noticed a glint of metal in Patrice's jacket. His heart sank. Patrice, you're not. You wouldn't. But before he could finish, the thunder roared again, drowning out his thoughts, shaking his core. In that deafening moment, a group emerged from the shadows, figures cloaked in dark clothes, faces concealed. Their presence loomed, ghost-like against the bright flashes of lightning. "Run!" Patrice yelled, her voice breaking. And just like that, the fragile thread of connection snapped. Edward's world tilted as truth swirled in the chaos. Patrice, this woman he thought was a beacon of his past, wasn't here to save him. She was the storm. Marcus stepped back, his expression darkening. "What did you do, Patrice?" In the clamor of raindrops and thunder, Edward felt an aching betrayal, a heavy realization crushing his chest. Secrets, lies, choices made long ago now flared into being before his eyes, unraveling everything he thought he knew. "Get away from her!" he shouted, but even as he spoke, the doubt crept in. Who was he even saving? The darkness around them shifted into a whirlwind of anger and confusion, and as the storm bore down, lightning flickered once more, cloaking their faces in shadows. The question hung in the air. What did they really understand of each other? Through the pounding rain, a scream pierced the night, an electric shrill that sent icy fingers down his spine. Someone was going to pay for the chaos arising, and Edward felt himself pulled deeper into the heart of the storm, caught in a whirlwind of fear, shared pasts, and irrevocable choices. The night was far from over. The truth was just beginning to reveal itself, twisted and cruel. The chaos roared around them, thunder rumbling in anger, as the figures emerged from the shadows. Edward's mind raced, panic gripping his chest. He looked at Patrice, her eyes wide with fear. "What did you do?" "Nothing! It's worse than that!" she cried, glancing back into the darkness. "They're here to finish what they started!" The wind howled, and the shadows shifted closer. Each step carried dread, thick like fog. Edward felt every raindrop, like a reminder of the nightmare closing in. "Run!" Marcus shouted. But before they could move, a shout pierced through the night, more chilling than the wind. "Stop right there!" A figure stepped forward, illuminated by the flickering flames from the shed. Edward's stomach twisted as recognition struck. Face bruised, hair matted down by rain. It was a man from his past, a man he never thought he'd see again. Gary, a face he associated with trouble, with betrayal. "What are you doing here?" Edward gasped, disbelief cutting through the storm. "I came for what's mine," Gary sneered, voice dripping with venom. "You've had it too good for too long." "Get away from us!" Marcus yelled, stepping protectively in front of Edward, anger sparking in his eyes. But Gary just chuckled, a low, menacing sound. "You think you can protect him, huh? After everything he did?" Edward felt a cold chill run through him. "What are you talking about?" Didn't you know? Gary said, stepping closer, a twisted smile flashing across his face. He's the reason you were abandoned, Edward. Heart racing, a lump formed in Edward's throat. What? That's not true. Oh, but it is, Gary taunted, his voice dripping with joy. Your mother kept it a secret for so long. She didn't want you to know the truth, who the real father is. Time froze in that instant. Silence swallowed the chaos around them, leaving only the pounding rain and the roaring thunder. Edward felt the world tilt beneath him. Father, Marcus echoed, his voice barely more than a whisper. What are you saying? I'm saying you're half-brothers, same father, different mothers. How do you think Edward got all his money, huh? Gary's eyes danced with malice. Inheritance. Too bad your mother didn't spill the beans. But here she is, lurking in the shadows, making sure you'd never face the truth. No, no, Edward cried, shaking his head. You're lying. But even as he spoke, every fiber of his being trembled. All those years of silence, secrets hidden away, spun wildly. He glanced at Marcus, the tension suffocating. Did he see the truth reflected in Edward's eyes? Patrice stepped back, hands shaking. You need to leave, she begged. Leave? Not a chance. Gary laughed, a harsh sound cutting through the rain. This is just the beginning. The truth is long overdue, and I'm here to ensure it comes out. In that moment, an ear-splitting crack of lightning illuminated the entire scene. The blinding light revealed something shocking, a tattoo on Marcus's forearm. The same one Edward had seen before. I can't be, Marcus began, blinking through the rain. But the panic in his voice echoed the confusion churning inside Edward. Good luck to you both, Gary shouted, stepping back as shadows moved forward from the tree line. Dark figures creeping closer. Wait, what? Edward pressed, grasping for answers in the whirlwind of chaos. But before he could voice his thoughts, the real storm boiled over. Gary grinned, sick pleasure dancing in his eyes. Your past will catch up with you. Let's see how you survive the truth. Everything fell apart as the figures surged forward. Edward gasped as reality hit hard. Everything he knew was unraveling, the storm now a raging tempest, threatening to swallow them whole. The night wasn't just a storm. It was a reckoning, the beginning of something terrifying. What lay ahead? Could they stand against the secrets closing in? Or were they already lost? The night flashed bright as Gary's words hung in the air, a weight that pressed down hard on them. Edward and Marcus stood frozen, pulse racing, raw shock churning in their veins. The figures advancing, shadows stretching closer with dread-laden intent, filled the space with impending doom. But before any reaction could manifest, another piercing crack split the air. Thunder roared as a sudden rush of wind swept through, a force aiming to scatter the dark figures approaching from the tree line. Rain lashed against their skin like 1,000 tiny needles. Edward! Patrice screamed, her voice caught between panic and urgency. But her warning was swallowed by the chaos unfolding. The darkness shifted again, illuminating not just the threat, but something, someone from beyond the shadows. A figure stepped through the curtain of rain, drenched but resolute. Edward's breath left him. No, it can't be! The light from the shed's fire flickered across a familiar face. revealing it, soaked, yet defiant. It was his father. "Dad?" Edward's voice broke, strained. The man, older, wearied, but undeniably him, raised a hand. "Edward! You have to listen to me! This isn't what it seems!" "What do you mean?" Edward gasped, confusion spiraling as he fought to process the whirlpool of emotions. Shock rippled through Marcus's expression. Disbelief painted across his face. "I didn't abandon you," his father said, eyes wide with urgency. "I had to keep you safe from them." He gestured to Gary and those dark figures, intent lurking in their eyes. "Safe?" Marcus echoed, voice thick with anger. "You took my family from me. You let him go while you hid in the shadows." "Marcus," Edward whispered, the truth clawing at the edges of his understanding. "But how?" "Listen to him!" Patrice shouted, her tone sharp as she edged closer to them. "He knows things." The ground trembled again, rain pouring down relentlessly. Just when it felt like everything would collapse, silent chaos erupted. They surged forward, the figures on the edge yearning for confrontation. "Stop," Edward demanded, raising his hands. The storm raged above, a furious backdrop to the uproar. With another flash, a figure behind the dark shadows stepped into the light. A woman, piercing eyes, a gentle yet determined demeanor. "This needs to end now." It was Edward's mother. "Mom?" Edward felt the weight of the revelation suffocating him. She started, but the words froze on her lips, fear consuming the moment. "What kind of twisted game is this?" Marcus shouted, frustration boiling over. In that instant, everything pressed inward like a heavy shroud. And then it happened. A brutal crack split the air. Overwhelming, red light burst from the ground beneath them, a deeper roar echoing through the rain. The ground opened. The earth shifted like some dark warning, a cavern revealing itself beneath the chaos. It spread wide, like a mouth ready to consume them all. "Run!" Patrice yelled, but her voice was lost in the tempest that crackled around them. "Edward!" his father shouted, arms reaching out. "We have to find the truth!" But as they stumbled back, Marcus grabbed Edward's arm. "They've lied to you!" "All of them." Edward's heart raced in response, caught between the expanding void beneath them and the voices screaming through the storm. What is this? What is happening? But dread mingled with the resolve swelling inside him. Just as the darkness became too great, a clawing piece of memory surfaced, forcing all connection with clarity. A family torn apart, a deception hidden, and then it hit him. The pendant Marcus held was a key. The realization sent a shockwave through him. Before he could voice the connection, Gary lunged forward, and in that moment, every heart stilled. A flash of electricity arced between them, and the world braced for the impact. As the chasm opened wider, the storm howling like a beast eager for the hunt. Everything you thought was true is just a lie. Gary sneered, voice dripping with thrill, and in that blinding light, just before it swallowed them whole, Edward felt a soft whisper in his ears. "You will have to choose." Then, silence. As the earth surged and the rain fell in torrents, everything fell dark. Embrace of the storm, dread of the unknown. Truths untold awaited in the darkness, more terrifying than any lie. What waited on the other side of that void? The night stretched deeper, shrouded in more questions than answers, and inside, fear coiled tighter than ever. The ground rumbled beneath them, the storm conjuring chaos that felt unstoppable. Edward staggered back, clutching onto a sliver of sanity amid the swirling shadows and shouts. The earth felt alive, shifting as if it held secrets waiting to be unleashed. "Stop!" Edward bellowed, voice hoarse. He focused on Gary, anger flaring behind his fear. "You won't ruin this for me. Not again." But Gary only sneered, an unsettling grin spreading across his face. "You're too late, Edward. You're already in too deep." He motioned to the figures behind him, their presence looming like vultures, waiting for the end. Marcus, still grasping the pendant, stood firm beside Edward. "We're not afraid of you. You don't control our fate." His voice thundered, drowning out the storm for a heartbeat, and the air thickened with tension. Through the din, a sudden crash echoed from the chasm, the earth calling as if it clamored for release. The swirling vortex grew wider, deepening into darkness. "This is your chance," Sarah cried, her voice piercing through fear. "Face the truth. Choose what you want." "Truth?" Edward echoed, breath catching. "Is that all this is about?" The weight of recognition slapped him, memories rushing back with every heartbeat. Who were you hiding to protect? He couldn't ignore that question any longer. "You know who I am," Gary shot back, venom lacing his words. "A reminder of the life you turned away from. Your family, your blood." Lightning split the sky, illuminating the truth for just a second. Edward met Marcus's gaze, and in that moment, he saw the storm reflected in his brother's eyes. A family fractured, lost, but waiting to piece itself together. "Together!" Marcus shouted, grabbing Edward's arm. "We can face this! We've come too far to turn back." As fear seized him, Edward felt the tendrils of hope brimming. "You're right, I won't hide anymore," he said, a fierce determination igniting in his heart. "We've been running from the truth. Not tonight." With a sudden rush, the figures lurched forward, a tide eager to drown them in despair. "Run!" Edward yelled, adrenaline surging through his veins as he seized Marcus's hand. Together they sprinted towards their past, towards that swirling darkness, defiant and ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. But then, from the shadows, a voice called out, "Wait!" It was Patrice, breathless, with urgency, as she rushed to their side. "Don't do this alone. You need allies." "Get out of here," Marcus shouted, but Patrice shook her head, resolve burning in her eyes. "No, I won't let you face them without me. We deserve a chance." Her words struck through the storm, becoming a lifeline, entwining them together. The shadows faltered, confusion rippling through their ranks. Edward felt that shared determination bounce between them like energy, an unbreakable bond forging in the heat of battle. It was family, connection, a force stronger than any creature, lurking in the dark. Just as they crossed the threshold, the brown shifted violently again, a roar echoing as their combined wills crashed against the darkness. "For once, let's break the cycle," Edward yelled, as the shadows drew closer. In a final, blinding flash, they plunged below the surface, parts pounding as the storm unraveled above them. The void grasped at their heels, but they were no longer terrified. Together, they faced the unknown, defiance coursing through their blood. Emerging on the other side, it felt both familiar and terrifying. All at once, clarity ripped through the haze. The darkness began to recede, revealing a sight more beautiful than Edward had ever known. A place where their truth could finally thrive, unshackled and free. The air was thick with potential, and as the storm faded behind them, they felt reborn. But the shadows lingered in the corners of their minds. Would they truly be free? Feeling the weight of everything they had fought, Edward, Marcus, and Patrice stood together, hearts aligned. The journey ahead was still twisted and uncertain, but one truth lingered like a whisper. Amid the embraces and newfound bonds, a flicker of hope ignited within him. Together, Edward murmured, a promise etched into his heart, vowing to fight for that future. But as they stepped into the light, something tugged at the edges of his consciousness. Would their past come creeping back? Would they find what they were searching for? The question settled like a shadow, one that promised their adventure was far from over. And as the night settled, their hearts whispered a collective hope resonating within. This storm was only the beginning. Hey, before you go, this is the moment. You have to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Let's spread the love. And don't forget to flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear from each of you. Finally, please share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. You guys are the backbone of this channel. Don't wait even a second longer to share. Your support makes all the difference.